I'll tell you, every day I go into my shop and I see that thing, and I'm like, oh man, this is the best. I feel I
Yeah,
feel a
dude.
lot of gratitude for having that thing.
Do you
Yeah,
have
it's
your
awesome too.
Do you have your new shop? Yeah, I mean it's been what 3 to 5 years. I guess, or last 4 years you've been in it.
About three,
Okay,
yeah.
have you got it where you want it, or is it still ever changing?
Um, I'll tell you the one thing that I am still super unhappy about is ventilation and dust removal from my dirty room. Um, it's just I would in a perfect world, of course it's never going to happen, but in a perfect world you could have a room where you're doing all your grinding and all that stuff, and it would just be like some room where they're making microchips. It'd be 1 part per billion of crap floating around in the air. That's
Yeah,
never going to happen, but mine is the opposite of that right now. It's just this giant oppressive cloud of horrible stuff. And it good dust collection, you can cobble together crappy dust collection easily, but to really do a good job of it, especially around grinders that have all these different attachments and stuff, it's very hard to do. And so I gave several stabs at it when I first got in there, and didn't go well. And so I just have been procrastinating about really fixing it, because I mean it's a big project to properly do that stuff.
I may be able to help you. I was going to say, I may be able to help you with this because I have a wonderful dust collection system. My shop collects all the dust, and then I have a Lowe's leaf blower that blows it all out when it gets dusty enough.
3, 2, 1, 0.
You're listening to the Knives Templars.
I got a piece off of the wagon that Sam Houston used to take JFK to the moon.
Pinto sauce. I like that. Pinto sauce.
Pinto sauce. You're tuned in to the Knives Templars podcast. Featuring Jason Fry.
Yeah, I've been just been doing what we do.
Long time listener, first time caller. Eric T.R.E. Rivers.
Holy crap, I built something.
Mark Vasallo.
There would be a lot of places I would launch myself to.
Chip Carlisle. We've had a raccoon come through the screen door down in the family room.
I was a mean kid.
And Josh Ferrand. And now, broadcasting across planet Earth, it is the Knives Templars, coming to you live from PORKHouse Studios right here in Hartselle, Alabama, and scattered across the country. We are on demand, and it's time to sit back and enjoy another show on the KnivesTemplars.com. Oh, there we go, guys. There's my take on dust collection and removal, but I will tell you to my compadres on here, I'm going to have to update this intro and add our most recent class. We're a group of cast members. Walter, we're an evolving group over time. People kind of come and go, and that's the beauty of what we do. We've got all these friendships of people have come in and people have gone on because of other opportunities or needing to take a step back, and we just roll in, and it just gets better and better and better each time. I will say I'm going to leave that turkey in there because that's as close as I'm ever going to get to killing a turkey after this last season. So think
the dog's chasing him away.
Yeah, Walter, I sat out in the woods for 4 hours, and I would have been out there for about 7 hours, but about 4 hours in, I called in 3 hunting dogs from somebody's property 2 or 3 miles down the road that came in to say hello and make love to my decoy. So it was something else. Hey guys, this is Chip Carlisle. I'm your host of the Knives Templars, and I've got my my co-host and compadres, equal host, my friends. Tonight we've got Mark Vasallo covering South Alabama territory and the new South Alabama Knife Makers Guild. We've got Kyle Daly up in the Midwest, and nobody has to introduce Kyle Daly. He is monumental in our community. We've got the great Josh Varan, the only person that ever had to return Forged in Fire's phone call because he was strapped to a rocket at the time. And we've got a special guest host with us tonight, and visitor. That's Mr. Walter Sorrells. And first off, good evening, everybody.
How you doing?
Good evening.
There we go. There we go. So we do have Walter Sorrells. I am so excited because this is the season 9, episode 80. We're only 20 away from, I think 100 is supposed to be important. Most people throw a party in 100, and that'll be this time next year. So we've got some time to plan for that. But, I promised you guys by episode 80, I would get Mr. Sorrells on here, and I call you Mr. It's just the way I am, Walter. I would get Walter on here. And did I not come through, or did I not come through?
Oh,
Good job, Chip.
You all owe me.
It's not real.
It's not real. You think this is like the
AI.
moon? This is like the moon landing.
It's like the moon landing. This is all a farce. We just got really good Chat GPT on.
Let me be straight. He paid me $25, and I said sure.
Well, I had to buy a few tools by him and the great Joey Berry and the more tools I bought, the closer he got to coming on. So I think I finally got close enough. No, anyway, guys, hey, we're one of the great family friendly podcasts out there, and we talk knife making and a plethora of other things, and it's all about making knife makers better. Doesn't matter what your skill level is, where you are in the craft, what your interest is, whether you're a collector or you're a maker or whatever. We've got something to offer everybody, and tonight's episode is another example of that. Walter, welcome.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah, I had hoped to get some of the Walter Sorrells intro music from your YouTube videos and surprise you with it, but I couldn't figure out how to download it and make it sound good. And then I figured, I barely got you in here, and then there could have been that cease and desist letter for using your music, so I wasn't going to do that for this episode.
Well, funnily enough, I actually, I have like 15 hard drives, and they slowly die, and some of the early clips are on some of those dead hard drives, and so somehow I've misplaced the music that I was playing for 15 years, and so I had to record some other stuff. Just a little footnote on that. I started doing videos, 20-ish years ago.
Right.
And this is before YouTube ever existed, and so they had this free music that you could use and do whatever you wanted with. So I put that on some of the early stuff that I did that I was distributing by DVD. And then once I uploaded it on YouTube, they started blocking things because they said I didn't have any right to this music that I had, I had to like paid for it, or I can't even remember. It's a long time ago. But I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to do my own music, and that way nobody can ever tell me you can't use this music. And so all the terrible music on my show is stuff that I did.
So are you a musician as well?
No, I play music, but I'm not a musician.
You play instruments.
I play instruments.
There we go.
Not well.
All right. Well, you got Mark and I. We're the fellow instrumentarians on this show. We both play instruments. So let me get this right. Author, under pseudonyms. I Wikipedia'd you a few weeks ago after I met you just to see, and I was like, this guy goes by the name Len, but in this day and age, you can do that too. So, Len is like, you go either way. So, but the author and martial artist, you make. Would it be appropriate to say Japanese swords or
Yeah.
Is that okay? Japanese swords.
I always say Japanese style swords.
Okay, Japanese style. Yeah, very good. Japanese style swords. You've got a business as a tool designer. You are a teacher. I mean, you've created quite a. And I'm sure I didn't get it all in. You need to increase. I'll go in. I'm an editor on Wikipedia. So if you would like me to go in tonight, I can write a very creative story. As a matter of fact, you were on 12 seasons of Finding Bigfoot by the time I'm done. But anyway, quite an interesting guy. So guys, welcome back to season 9, episode 80. And I'm going to shut up just a little bit because this is a really cool episode. Mark, just quickly, what have you guys been up to?
Well, been finally getting some time in the shop. I've had the kitchen cabinet project from hell. I finally got that moving pretty good. So hopefully my kitchen, restaining and sanding and polyurethanes can be done pretty soon. But as far as knife making, I had 5 of those EDCs that I started a while ago, and I had sanded up to like 600, and didn't have handle material, so that came in, I don't know, a month or so ago, and so I'm working on scales for those 5 EDCs, and then I cut out a whole bunch, maybe a month ago, I cut out a few files worth of Farrier's rasp knives, and I've been working on some guard fit ups for some hidden tang. Farrier's rasp knives, and I think that's the main thing. So it's funny because Walter, as you're talking about dust collection right now, after profiling and sanding, just those 5 sets of scales, in a small shop, I have that one of those filtration systems. And so I put my ceiling fan on and throw that on there and close the door. When I come back, it's great in there. But that's the benefit of a small shop. The dust doesn't go too far.
So how many
concentrates more though?
Yeah, it is.
Yes. How many of those knives are you working on? Do you have aspects of Walter's videos in the past? You've watched at least 2 or 3 videos.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you, probably, the short list, with Eric and Walter, and there's probably like maybe 3 or 4 YouTube knife makers that I watch as many as I can, but 3 or 4 that are probably the mainstays that a maybe beginner, hopefully move into a intermediate knife maker, I've relied upon over the years to get me where I am. So, it's been pretty good. It's been great.
You. I tell you what, you're ready for a website, man. You got to get your website up and going because you've got some beautiful knives you're making. I'm going to go next just to tell you guys, because mine's very quickly and almost a little bit funny. I said I got some Fiery Furnace Forge tongs, and you guys have to go out and get those. That's FORGE.com, Fiery Furnace Forge, FFforge.com. Go out and see what they've got to offer, from hammers to tongs, just a little bit of everything. Good guys up in Kentucky. So I got my tongs in today. Additionally, got home and decided I was going to work on this 4th knife for my first guild submission. So I was working on it, and this is where it comes up. I'll end very quickly here. I spent 35 minutes trying to figure out why I couldn't get a guard to fit against a stabilized handle. And it didn't matter how I raked down the wood with my square. I went across the guard and measured it. I chrometered it. I micrometered it. Everything chrometered it. And I couldn't figure it out. And I was just sitting there frustrated going, I am not going to bevel this piece of wood so that it matches up perfectly, because that's not what you do. So as I was sitting there, I put I went back and measured it again. And as I was measuring it on my gauge, the gauge wasn't sitting flat on the surface. And when I had put that guard on, there was a tiniest little drop of hardened epoxy on the backside of that guard. So when I put it down on the, and guys, I didn't go in and do a lot. I didn't do any grinding or anything. I just sat there frustrated, trying to figure it out. In 0.08 seconds, I took my razor blade, flicked that piece of epoxy off. It fit perfectly. It is so tight, daylight can't get through it if it tried. So awesome. Sometimes, guys, it's not the most obvious, or it is. No, it is the most obvious thing. You just got to know to look a little deeper. So that's my story for this week. I'm coming at you, Kyle. When everybody goes running through the doors at Blade Show, I'm running straight to your table. So if anybody's going to flunk me, I know you will, and if you do, it's okay. Actually, I'm going to go and try and hit up some guild members that I don't know very well, because I don't want anybody to say anything along those lines. So, Walter, you a guild member?
I am not.
Dang.
I'm not an ABS member. I'm not really a member of much anything. I'm in the Georgia Knife Makers Guild, but that's about it.
Yeah, and we're in the Alabama Knife Makers Guild, and we've all talked about partying together sometime. I think you guys are trying to get other guilds in from other states over at Pops, so that's quite exciting. Josh, what have you been up to?
I've been traveling the last couple of weeks, just nonstop for work, so I've not been able to do a whole lot in the shop, but it's been a good work few weeks. Got a lot of good demos done, and starting to get some orders rolling in, all of that good stuff, and hoping that I'll be able to time my demos and things like that a little bit better in the next few weeks. What for getting ready for Blade Show and such. I've got a laundry list of things that I'm working on, and I'll just, it's not Blade Show unless epoxy's still a little tacky.
You're not going to be sanding knives in your hotel room.
That may or may not happen. Yeah, I'll be bringing some ferric chloride with me.
He was eastbound and down on 20, steering with his knees at 90 miles an hour, sanding with those things. So, man, hey,
literally, I etched less than an hour, and I still had to do glue up and all that stuff before I left for Blade Show, and I got in at the last minute.
Now, did you tell our guest what kind of work you do during the day, so when he needs you to come over to his shop and scan something out for him?
Yeah, I do 3D scanning. So I've been a design engineer by trade for 13 and a half years, focused around doing reverse engineering and inspection through the use of 3D scan data. And I've done a bunch of cool projects, everything from scanning a hand-carved wooden turkey to Blue Origin's rocket assembly facility. I've scanned swords, all sorts of cool stuff, and create reverse engineered things like that. So it's a fun thing. It's, that kind of dichotomy of I'm on the bleeding edge of technology during the day, and then at night in the afternoons I hit stuff with hammers. So
have you ever scanned a 59 Les Paul?
I haven't done a Les Paul, but I have scanned the serial number 3 of an M1 Garand.
Okay.
So not quite a Les Paul, but still I actually we scanned serial number 3, and I think it was 16 or something like that. And because obviously 3 is the prototype, one of the prototypes, and so we could show the difference between different components from the prototype phase into the mass production phase. And I actually built CAD models based off of the scan data to be exact to the actual part, and then that way they could 3D print larger versions of it to show as an educational thing for people to be hey, this is how they did it, and you can see they modified this in order to make it function, and then this is how the design changed in mass production and all of that. So it was a really neat project to be a part of.
I have one question.
I have go ahead.
I was have one question. Josh, your microphone shows that it's muted, but I can hear you just fine.
Oh, really? Let me mute and unmute. How about that?
Well, hopefully we've got all that. If not, I'll go back and grab it somewhere. But I hear you just
Gotcha.
fine. Go ahead, Walter. I'm sorry.
What was I going to say?
He was talking about scanning guitars.
Yeah. I was going to say I have this pet little project that I want to do someday, which is to trace Browning's handgun designs, and just see how all those little tweaks as he refined his idea of what a handgun was supposed to be, how that kind of evolved, because it really happened over about 10 years, and he just completely revolutionized handgun design. And I'm very interested as somebody who designs just stuff in how little tiny tweaks, you pick up. So you go to a blade show and you see this guy who does this thing, and you take that and you go back to your shop and you're like, if we did that with a 1/4 20 thread, and and then you all of a sudden have a new tool. And people always talk about technology or invention or whatever, as though there's some lightning bolt of genius, but really so many things get done by just these tiny incremental changes. And I think that's just a fascinating thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a cool thing about scan data too, is that scan data is going to be what it is, so you can see exactly what is changing dimensionally, and you can compare them to each other, and you can even measure okay, well, they brought this down 20 thou, and now all of a sudden it gave them the ability to do this, and you can kind of see those incremental steps as you go. It's pretty neat.
And another little aspect of industrial design, or really just design of anything, is some of it is calculated, and you have to figure some of it is just some guy tripped and the jig that he was using, the 20 thou, disappeared, and that becomes the Bible after that.
100%. In fact, a lot of our business, ours being 3D scanning, is a lot of these tools and things that are used in military, for example, the KC-135, the C-130. I've scanned those airplanes and those components, and they don't have the original. They've got original pencil drawings, but like you said, man, somebody bumped the tool, and all of a sudden that just became the way that it was set up moving forward. And so now these tools don't match the actual drawings. And so what we were tasked with in my last job was scanning. We scanned the entire C-130 tooling lineup, and
wow.
We did it for F-16 as well. And we actually built essentially scanned all the F-16 components and the tools, and we're able to assemble them in aircraft coordinates to show them how they interact. And so it's hey, we're always having to trim this panel in order to make it fit. Why is that? It's well, because Bobby Joe bumped the tool back in 84 and messed up the alignment, and so now you have to trim this part this much every single time.
Well, and the thing about stuff like that is, C-130 is a plane that is older than most of the people on planet Earth, and it's still supposedly the same plane, and in some sense it is, and yet in some sense it's not. I find that the sense of, not to get too philosophical about it, but one of the cool things about being part of the knife making community is that every time you talk to somebody, you learn something. There's this sense of tradition and knowledge passed on all the time. And, those old pieces of technology don't just live on a blueprint. They live in the people who actually make that stuff. And how many guys in the Lockheed plant over in Marietta were there when that plane was first made? Zero.
Right.
And yet they're still making them. There's still some kind of through line there that allows them to make this extraordinary thing.
Yeah. And it's really neat to be able to capture that kind of history too.
I would say I'm Chuck Woolery, and we'll be back 2 and 2. We have made a love connection here. Hey guys, if you haven't been to Pop's Knife Supplies, you need to go check them out at popsknifesupplies.com. I spent about $300 there this week. That's how much I love them. They were started 40 years ago by the great James Poplin, and he was dedicated to serve this knife community with the best prices and actual shipping costs. As a matter of fact, today I got my emails back saying how much I had saved. So much so I want to call them out. I placed orders on the last show, you heard me placing orders for belts while we were recording. And then the next 2 days later, I placed an order for something else on like a Sunday. And the great Luke Berry, the offspring of Joey Berry, he said, "Hey, I can put these in one box and save you $14 in shipping." I mean, how many people would do that versus just pocket the shipping cost or what they make on it? So they are a wonderful company. They're run by Alan Sorrells, Joey Berry, and Dirk Lutz. They're both full-time knife makers, and their focus is customer service. But above all else, they've got some of the greatest products out there. So you need to check them out at Pop's Knife Supplies today. I had this. This is where my mind goes, and we'll jump back into this, is that I was driving home today, and somebody was talking about Katy Perry and the ladies that took the trip up to the edge of space and came back down and kissed the ground. And they were talking about Katy Perry up there holding up some type of little objects and making heart symbols with her hand. And I was just laughing to myself because I had sent Walter an email, and I was like, I wonder if Bezos sent Walter, Joey, Alan, and Dirk up into the edge of space. I wonder which one would be making hand heart symbols at the camera. And you know what? It was Dirk Lutz. It was definitely Dirk Lutz. So I don't know why my mind went there, but I was laughing driving down the road between Batson's and Tannehill and Birmingham as I was figuring that Dirk was making heart symbols up in space. Anyway, yeah, it was funny in my mind. Anyway, thank you for laughing. Hey, Kyle, what you've been up to so many things, and I want to thank you because I made a chef knife for somebody this week, and I got so much praise for it, and I certainly have to. It's a Joey Berry design. I bought 4 of his blanks at Batson's for his K-tip, and that's the one. I bought 3 after going there, and that's what Luke saved me the shipping cost on. But I use that push stick of yours. And you know what? It's innovation like that there's many different ways to skin a cat, but we all tend to find, our method for skinning the cat. And I tell you what, you've sold me 110% on your push stick. The only problem is you didn't throw Buddy on the end of it. We all wanted it to be the push stick Buddy, but it is the most, Walter, most everything he does is called Buddy on the end. And we look for Buddy on the end of all of his products, but it is the most wonderful tool, Kyle. So now that you've received your praise, do to you anyway. What you been up to, brother? Besides fixing bike tires?
Yeah, that was a miscellaneous bike extravaganza. My wife's bike tire went flat, and then went to the bike shop, got 2 new tires, 2 new inner tubes, changed all that out, and we went on our bike ride. And then about a little more than a quarter mile, the screw that held my left pedal on apparently had fallen out at some point, and my pedal fell off. So I had to walk the last little bit back, but got a new screw off Amazon, and shockingly, that screw seems to be like fairly common across like all manufacturers apparently. So I was pretty shocked about that. But yeah, doing some knives, getting ready for Blade Show, building some inventory for the knife making tools, working on a couple of knives for graduation presents for people that have ordered them. One of the orders that I have is for a 8-inch chef knife for his daughter's culinary school graduation at the end of the month.
That is really cool.
Yeah, so trying to get all that stuff done on top of doing the new engineering gig for a little bit, and that's been nice to have some extra cash flow, but been up till 10:30, 1 o'clock most of the nights trying to keep both jobs going.
So
need sleep.
So you got all your divot tools taken care of. I call them divot tools. You had another name for them. What'd you call it?
Yeah, Phil calls them pitch tools. So
pitch tools, okay.
The pitch is like what they call the grass and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he doesn't like to call them divot tools because you don't use them to make a divot. Use them to fix the pitch.
Divot removal tool. Divot flattening tool.
Yeah.
He actually calls it
the divot buddy.
He calls it the PF pitch tool or something like that. I forget exactly what that stands for.
You give it a new name. You put a beautiful piece of Kyle Daly steel and a fancy little handle on it there, and it's worth 3 times as much. And it's a beautiful little tool. I actually like them. So
yeah, they're
good
nice.
for you.
Yeah, I got all 200 of those done, and working on a whole bunch of the stuff for Blade Show. Got to get my figure out what knife I'm going to do for the Knife Makers Guild best chef knife. Going to try to enter that again this year. So
good deal.
Yeah.
How's Dan doing? You guys recording?
Yeah, we recorded one, just put it up, did a show, just him and I, talk about some more stuff that he wished he had known when he started out. And then we also talked about the Jess Hoffman project. He went back, Jess Hoffman's knife maker. He went back and listened to episode from 1 to 100. It was right around number 80. He said, he thought, I think I've been the most mentioned person on your podcast. And he went back and he labeled every single person from 1 to 100. There was like 278 people or something, I think it was. And he ended up coming in number 2, right behind Dan's wife. As the most mentioned person on the podcast. So,
well, excellent. I'm glad to see us. I did see your post today. Dan was wearing his man dress in that photo with you. He likes his man dress.
Somebody messaged me and thought it was my dad.
I didn't tell him that.
I haven't told him that yet.
Your dad is one guitar from being on stage with the Grateful Dead. What are they talking about?
He definitely wears the bandana and the tie-dye for it. So.
Your dad's got he's got his own cool going on. I actually like your dad just from his style. When you get older, it's best that's when you really become cool, because you don't care what you look like. You don't care what others think. You just do your own thing. And that is the epitome of what cool really is. So, and,
yes, so.
Your dad's a wonderful man. Hey, let me just fill you guys in. If you, I talked to my buddy over in Istanbul today. He didn't experience any serious damage with the earthquake that they had over there, and they're doing quite well and running just fine. But if you haven't been to tr-maker.com, you need to go. You sell, he makes some great quality and wonderful, innovative products over in Istanbul, Turkey. He's got fast service. Where else can you order something from the other side of the world and have it in your mailbox 4 days later? Order it on a Wednesday, it's in my mailbox on a Sunday. Delivering 7 days a week now. But you need to see their line of knife making tools, certainly created to make your job easier and more precise. You can't do without them once you discover them. And I'll tell you, I used his drill alignment tool for drilling my holes down into my handle for my hidden tang knife today. And the biggest thing is that when you're putting those holes in there for a hidden tang, and they want to drift left or right, those ones that are in between the other holes, this just holds them and they just go down nice and true and really do a nice job lining those holes up as well. So there's many different ways to skin a cat. That's my way. So you need to go out and visit trmaker.com and see what he has to offer for you today. Good deal.
All right.
Mark, you don't feel like playing the mandolin tonight? I don't have it keyed up. So you're supposed to say no.
No.
Okay, good. So let's just go ahead and jump into. I know that some of you guys are kind of giddy and want to get going on some questions you got. So let's let her rip. Walter, again, welcome. Josh.
Yeah, so a lot of people, I'm sure most people listening to this podcast are familiar with you and kind of like your backstory. And I know that you had done a lot of stuff over in Japan. Is that correct?
Well, no. Funnily enough, I taught English in Japan right after I got out of college. And at the time, making knives was not on my radar at all. And in fact, I wasn't doing martial arts at that point. It was after I got back that I got involved in Japanese martial arts, and then subsequently started making swords. So I completely squandered my my trip to Japan. I taught English over there for a while, and never went to the NBTHK Museum or to the great places in Kyoto. I never saw a sword the entire time I was there, or
really,
nothing cool whatsoever. Totally wasted.
Other than teaching people how to speak English,
right?
Yeah, well, I'm sure they appreciate that. And a lot of your like work, though, especially I guess derivative from your experience with the martial arts side of things, assuming that's kind of where you started branching into the traditional Japanese weaponry and bladesmithing and things along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, it really was just a weird happenstantial kind of thing. In my first career, I was a writer, and I was going to write this book that was going to have a guy who was a sword maker. And so, I just thought, well, I need to do something tangible so I get a feel of what this dude would be thinking about or what his hands are doing or whatever. And so I got a little piece of steel and I heated it up with a little propane torch and started whacking on it, literally on a rock with a ball peen hammer. And it moved just this tiniest little bit. And I just thought, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. So now 25 years later, I'm still doing it. But I really, and of course, I was that nerdy kid who was always drawing pictures of, guys with swords chopping people's heads off and stuff when I was a kid. Now, I mean, when I was a kid, that was super normal for, oddball kids like me. But now I think they like send you to a psychiatrist for doing that sort of thing, which is probably just as well. But, yeah, I mean, I always had an interest in pointy, sharp stuff, but it really wasn't until I was I guess I was in my late 30s when I actually started, making stuff.
I gotcha. And then, I've seen some of your videos, and you've been doing tamahagane for quite a long time now. Is that like, I think on one of your videos you said your first video you made was like about 20 years ago?
Yeah. And that was in the period when I was first getting started doing tamahagane. And, it's still kind of a mystifying process to me. I honestly, I sort of went through probably about a 10-year period where I wasn't doing it too much. I got started, me and a guy named Jesus Hernandez, Alabama guy, originally from Spain, but he was a doctor in Alabama, and he lived in Huntsville. And he and I studied the same Japanese sword art, and we, found out somewhere along the way that we kind of shared this interest in making swords. And we were really both very, very early in the process at that point. And so we just somewhere along the way said, hey, I think we could probably try making some tamahagane together. And so we would just go back and forth every few months. We'd go, to my place or his place, and we'd do another smelt and learn something and, kind of move on. But, it's a kind of multivariate equation. And if one, variable gets off, it it doesn't work very well. And so the last few smelts that I've done have not been very successful. And so I'm trying to go back on my next smelt and like recreate some of the more successful ones that I did really back in the probably around 2007, 2008. And we'll see. Every time it's an adventure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for those of you, I'm sure most people do know, but for those of you who don't know, Tamahagane is the steel that's typically used in Japanese blades. And the way that it's formed is they start off with iron ore in a powder form, and they heat it up in a furnace that they build each time. They build a new furnace for it, and they feed the ore in at the top with a bunch of charcoal, and through that process, because it's a carbon-rich environment, the iron ore will absorb the carbon, and you end up with what's called the bloom at the end of it. And then that bloom, it looks like an absolute mess. It's globby and crazy looking. And when people think of Damascus, they don't necessarily think of the traditional Wootz Damascus. They think of like these Japanese swords with that flowing river-like pattern, which Wootz will have that structure, but it's a different form. But the reason why the Japanese swords have that like flowing pattern is because in order to refine that bloom, you consolidate it, and it falls apart and it breaks and everything as you're trying to forge it down. And then once you do get it consolidated enough to be able to forge it out into a bar, that's where you hear about that folding, where they would cut it, fold it, forge weld it back to itself, cut it, fold it. And they do this multiple times in order to get to from a very unhomogeneous billet or glob of steel matter through that refining process would get to a usable piece of steel. And, you would end up with like a multi-pound, like 10, 12 pound chunk of steel in the bottom of this thing. Some of it was high carbon, some of it was low carbon, some of it was just iron. And through that refining process, you get a more homogeneous, actual solid piece of steel that you can then forge into a blade. And then, of course, Japanese being overachievers, they would do multiple blooms, and they would categorize it based off of like carbon quantity, and then they would arrange them in certain arrangements so that like your low carbon stuff that they had a lot of that was soft would be in the spine area. And there's a whole bunch of like cross sections you can find of different Japanese swords showing how they arranged all these different pieces of steel in order to achieve what they wanted. But when they polished them to such a high polish, you could see those layer lines from all of those different folds and all that stuff. And so that is kind of like that random pattern Damascus that people are familiar with. But for Japanese stuff, it's all one steel. It's not like 15 and 20 and 1080 like we do for our Damascus stuff. And so I bring that up mainly because I'm kind of a steel nerd myself, and I haven't done a full-on smelt yet. But I have done Oroshigane, and where you remelt low carbon steel in a high carbon environment in order to add carbon to it. And so I love that process. It's an absolutely time and money sink to be able to do it, and it's really not like any sort of practical way to go about making knives, especially with the quality of today's steel. But you can get really nice quality steel out of that process if you know what you're doing. And you can also go through that entire process and end up with a very low carbon piece of steel because you burnt all the carbon out of it if you're not careful. So it's a very rewarding process emotionally. Financially, maybe not so much.
Well, Josh, consider yourself invited to my next smelt. Any of you guys that want to come, it'll probably be, for maybe 2 months. and anytime I say 2 months, it probably means 3. But I honestly hope that I can get it done in 2 months or so.
If it's like any other smelt, go ahead.
I would say, how would we find out when it's going to take place? How do you?
Just bug me and
stay in touch with you.
Yeah, hopefully I'll remember to tell you. I'm terrible at that sort of thing, but
Josh
I'll be letting people know.
All right, Josh will be texting you every 36 hours now. Are we still on? Are we still on?
Perfect.
But I did see the steal that Josh made, and his talent and his desire. And being a young guy, I tell you what, he's just only going to continue to get better and better and better. And those traditions and those, it's just cool what he does. But I tell you, I had watched a video on YouTube of Japanese knife maker and his wife, and they're sifting sands and they're pulling the ferrous material out of the sands, and then they put it in that furnace they build, and it's all packed with brick and then with clay around it. Is that what we're talking about? Because I see it when it's running out the bottom, and then they break it up and pull the bloom out. Is that the process you're talking about?
Yep, that's it.
Good deal. So
people can for your. You say for your smelt here in like a month or 2 months, whatever. If it's like any good smelt, it'll be at the hottest point in, Southern American summer, where the humidity is the worst.
I did one at Billy Salyer's shindig that he does every July, Yellow Rose Forge. Fun thing for for folks who haven't done it. He's up outside Asheville, near-ish to Asheville. Anyway, he asked me if I'd do a smelt up there, and I did one, and it had to have been pushing 100 that day. And I'm telling you, I was spent at the end of that day.
Yeah, it seems to be like for when I first started doing this, I would always end up doing it like, middle of July, August in Alabama. Yep. And, but I will tell you if, I haven't done like an actual, bloom smelt, like I said, but an Oroshigane smelt as the sun's going down into the night with the sparks going up in the sky. Like it is the most like beautiful thing to witness. And like, it's one of those things, you talk about whenever you hit the metal on the rock and like it was barely warm and you just barely made a dent and you're like, this is awesome. Like that was my this is awesome moment. Was I had gone through all this stuff. I had talked to Emiliano Carrillo about how to set up the smelt for the Oroshigane, how to set up all my like little wafers I was using, how to cut up the charcoal, all that stuff. And I got it set up and I was going and I got into my rhythm with like my timing and everything. And the sun had just started going down. And, as I would add in that new charcoal, it would just be this fountain of sparks going up. And ever since then, I've just been like I would do that over Damascus if it was, more feasible.
It wasn't Lord of the Flies or anything. You weren't out there dancing around your forge or around your fire in the sparks, were you?
Actually, I've got a video of me like dancing around, being like "Booga booga," I made fire. My sparks are just like going everywhere.
He's a pretty cool dude, Walter. When he's not here, and scanning things, he's milking a cow and doing fun things around the farm. So I'm surprised that Josh doesn't have his own reality TV show. He's pretty quirky, pretty quirky, cool, like most knife makers are. Hey guys, talk about quirky, cool. Ameribraid grinders and accessories. You can find them at ameribraid.com. And there's a little quirkiness in it all because you have to be fun to have the design abilities those guys do. As a matter of fact, I think I was with Jason Fry, or was it you, Mark? Somebody, we were at Blade Show last year, and in the middle of nowhere, out in the dark, here comes 3 people on a scooter, crashing it into a hotel, and it was the guys from Ameribraid. So they were having fun in the middle of the night. It was maybe 10 or 11 at night, but just out of nowhere, boom, crash into the weeds. But Eric and Kevin, they just sent me a new Platin today, as a matter of fact, and I'm tickled with that. They developed really one of the best grinders out there in the accessories and tools on the market. They've got 3 packages: the Mastery, the Foundations, and the Get Grinding, to see what's right. So you can see what's right for you. And when you call them, the great news is if you ask to speak to Eric or Kevin, you're going to get through with them. Matter of fact, they've also hired a full-time customer service person that came out of their shop that knows their products, because they continue to grow. Guys, you need to get in there and get it now, because, everything in America is getting a tad bit more expensive, and I know they're holding off their prices. So get in there and take advantage of some of what they do now. Hey, as a matter of fact, Walter, I think that you work with Ameribraid, and you were at Blade Show with them one year presenting. And then, of course, we know that you are affiliated with the Pops guys with some tools and other things that they do. But did you switch to Ameribraid grinders, or is that just one of the grinders that you use?
It's one. I mean, the first grinder that I bought was a Bader, and I've still got that one. It's a single speed, so I taught myself how to grind just blasting it, light speed, and I did that for years and years. But they put one of their grinders in my hands. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and I use it every day. Great
tool. Yeah. Speaking of that, I know that that's actually a great way to learn to grind. If you grind at the speed of sound, I graduated from a 1x30 to a 2x42. What is what's the name of that company that makes those little 2x42s for a couple $100? You know what I'm talking about?
The Grizzly ones.
Not the Grizzly, no. It's the before that's just straight up and down like a Bader. Anyway, I got.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm talking about. Those were grinding at the speed of the sound, and once you learn not to burn tips and everything, you actually become pretty good. And I saw today that Eric Rivers had said, he's got his grinder that runs at the speed of sound, and he produces beautiful knives. And he's got a new grinder coming with a VFD on it from his buddy Brian House. So. He's going to enjoy that. I don't know how he's going to slow down. I have a feeling he just cranks that thing at 110% just because he doesn't know anything else. And he makes gorgeous knives. So what do you do? I don't think you can back off once you've been there.
Crank it to 11.
That's right. Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
So, Walter, what are you... Oh, go ahead. Yeah, please.
No. I was going to say, if you got something, I'm good.
No, sir.
I was just going to ask him a little bit about, talking about like ancient steel making techniques and, doing it the most difficult way possible. To now also like you've got your tactical line and your big fancy Haas CNC machining center and all of this stuff. So you also had mentioned something about potentially even like doing like small batch kind of cutout knives for people who want like something other than going out, overseas to get some stuff cut out, something that could be produced here in America by an American craftsman and all of that good stuff, to have that made in America quality. Can you talk a little bit more about like what you're doing with that?
Yeah, so I've only done a little bit of that, but the basic idea was there's some guys who want to make chef's knives or whatever it might be, that they're making to a real high standard and it takes a lot of time, but they also want to be able, somebody comes to them and says, hey man, I love your knives, but I don't really want to spend $1,700 on your knife. I can't do it. They want to have something that they can offer, that somebody would enjoy and treasure, but not gonna take a second mortgage on the house. And so, my theory was, if people are interested in doing that, contact me and we'll just try and work something out. And I've done a couple different things with some different guys. Some of them, is one instance, some buddies of mine who are combatives trainers. they're not knife makers at all, and they just wanted me to make a knife to their specifications. And so some of it's in that realm, and some of it is more just, hey, let's go back and forth and try and come up with a design that is appropriate for, the technology and techniques that I've got. And I've, I haven't done a ton of that, but I've done it with a couple guys now. And, it's kind of a fun thing to just work through that with somebody. And, I'm still not sure whether it's a long-term plan that's going to work out for me or not. I mean, the challenge that you face, anything that you do in a kind of more manufacturing production-ish sort of, realm is that there's a lot of upfront work in it. And so, realistically, I got to charge somebody for that upfront work. And then the, units after that are a little cheaper. And, not everybody necessarily wants to plunk down the kind of money that it takes to really work through this stuff. I mean, because, I actually, circling back to the, laser, laser and stuff, laser dimensioning, Josh. The reason I asked you about the 59 Les Paul is because I'm doing that with some buddies of mine who want a really dimensionally accurate 59 Les Paul body, and I'm actually making those in my CNC machine. And they're very, very particular about the dimensions, and they're using a plan that was, laser dimensioned off of some old 59s. And, what I was trying to convey to them was it's, whatever that plan looks like, it's an average of several different things, and they may have been very different. And to say we're going to just stick exactly to that plan within, very, very tight dimensions, maybe is, chasing the wind. But anyway, the thing that kind of shocked them as we've gone through this process is just how freaking hard it is to design stuff in CAD from scratch, and then fixture it and then crank the stuff out. And, people think, because like, if you've ever had any experience with CAD type programs, you can mess around with them a little bit and you can design a knife, quote unquote, in about 5 minutes. And people think like, oh yeah, it's just the work is in the design. No, it's not. The work is in the fixturing and planning the manufacturing sequences and the materials and the tool paths and all that stuff. And it's an incredibly, precise and detailed and labor intensive process. I'm not sure why I went down that, rabbit hole, but one thing that I will say, when, because people are always asking me, well, why did you get from swords to, a CNC machine and all this kind of stuff? And the answer I will give is I just do what I want to do. And, I would like to say I had some cute master plan on how to do all this stuff. And, no, I'm sorry. It's, there's something about the artistic personality that's, you're always treading this line between self-indulgence and, some kind of intuitive, harnessing of the universe to do something really cool. And as an artist, you never know whether you're just being a self-indulgent jerk or whether you really are getting somewhere. But that's how I've gone from point A to point B and point Z. Is always just like something in my gut says, hey, that would be super cool to do. And off I go.
I get that 100%. I'm very similar. I've got, my other little like side distraction is I've got a little CNC router that I can cut carbon with, and designed and made my own like first person view drone that I can fly around and crash into trees and
that's awesome.
all of that fun stuff. And so I definitely get that kind of like, it's another way to be creative, and it's funny because I got into drones initially just because it was something where I didn't have to design anything or make anything, because I do the same thing. If I get interested in something, I can't leave well enough alone, and I want to figure out how to do it, and like, can I do it better? Can I do this? What about that? And like, well, I just, I could buy it, but I could also make it. And so I do the same thing. And so I got into drones to avoid doing that. And I wound up designing and building my own drone and getting a CNC router that I could use to cut carbon. So, it's that draw to create and make things, and like, what's my take on this, and how can I do that? So it's kind of neat to see, all the different aspects that you're involved with, from the very traditional turning sand into steel, all the way up to like, your beautiful like Japanese swords that you make, to your tactical line that you have, and like how you're utilizing CNC machines and things like that to do stuff like cutting out your profiles, as well as like handle shaping to match up with like your designs and all of that good stuff. So it's really neat to see kind of such a broad range of capability.
Well, this raises one of my little pet peeves about, some people in the knife community, which is, they're, and I find, well, I don't know if that's true or not. I was going to say this is mostly true more of kind of fans than it is of people who actually make stuff, but I don't know if that's true or not. What I was going to say is there's some people who are very like, this is the right way to make a knife. This is a valid kind of knife, and all this other stuff is just, crap. And I have no patience for that whatsoever. I really feel like, everybody's got to find their own path in this thing. And some people are going to be, out in the garage once a month for 2 hours, and that's what they need. And some people are going to be, at 1 o'clock in the morning sitting there going, okay, Walter, go to bed, please stop now, and that, I would implore people who want to get into knife making to just look at themselves honestly and try and do stuff in a way that really makes them feel good about themselves and makes them feel like they're contributing something to the universe. And it's going to be different for everybody.
I was going to say, you were talking about the creative aspects, and also the amount of time you spend with something is an individual thing, like you're saying. But I think, Walter, I mentioned to you earlier, I made fishing lures professionally for many years, and crankbaits. So I decided that a long time ago that rattle trap is a great spring bait, and I've caught every bass in the world twice. So trust me, I know what I'm talking about. If you don't believe me, if you catch a bass sometime, just say Chip Carlisle and watch his eyes. But I decided I was going to make a wooden rattle trap. But how was I going to get a rattle in it? And it just, I went with it. I bought glass rattles that people put in baits, and I was trying to do that, and it just wasn't making the noise. And I had been working on finishing a basement, and I decided that I had been shooting my studs, my steel studs, into the floor and the wall with 22 caliber charges. Well, I decided, if I cut the end off of those and grind them down, I can sandwich them together and go to McMaster Carr and get some steel balls and put those in. Let's see what that makes. And then when I coated those lures with an epoxy, all of a sudden I had the most unique sound. It was the most beautiful thing. So I made 10 of them, and I took them out to the lake in some different colors, and I was fishing them, and I caught some fish. But I noticed that the sides were blowing out in them, and I couldn't figure out what was happening to these lures. Why was that epoxy failing in this, that, and the other? And then it hit me. I wasn't taking out, what do you call it? The primer that's inside those little, or the little charge that's in there. Those balls were going back and forth, and they would get to going in such a rhythm. And when they were perfect, they would pop, and then you would have an overpressure inside that casing. It'd blow the side out of the bait. Those never went to market that way. And then I learned I could take a little pointy thing and a scribe and sit there and scrape that. It'd go, and I'd get that thing to go, and it was gone. And I made the most wonderful bait. But there's sometimes there's setbacks. You got to keep going. But I made exploding fishing lures. And speaking of casting, guys, if you haven't been to castingcrafts.com, go out and buy something. Emily makes some of the most beautiful hand casted handle scales. And if she doesn't have what you're looking for, tell her what you're looking for, and she will be happy to make it for you. And you can find her at castingcrafts.com. Man, what a transition.
That was slick, I got to tell you.
Yeah, that was good.
I got the gift of gab and stupidity. I use them both equally. So sometimes they run together.
That transition was like your fishing lures. It was the bomb.
Yeah, well, everybody wants to be a master smith, and I belonged to the American Masturbators Association for several years, and I had to leave that group. No, fishing lures was a wonderful thing, and I think we all jump in these interests. But Walter, you're a competitive shooter, or you just enjoy shooting? What is it that you do there?
So I shot IDPA for, I think it must have been 12, 13 years. I got to master level in that, and ran matches, and I was a safety officer and stuff like that. But I'm not shooting these days. Mm-hmm. What happened was a bunch of guys and I trained in martial arts, and we realized we were getting to be old farts, and we had various reasons for not training together, and for the same folks anymore. But we really, we were good friends, and we just wanted to get together, doing something. And so we took up competitive shooting, and, just kind of got into it and did it for quite a while. And for those who aren't familiar with IDPA, it's a kind of combat shooting style. You're shooting at humanoid targets, hiding behind walls. It's all pistol shooting, and you're just running around, shooting as fast as you can. It's just super fun.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that, is just that any of those type of shooting sport, especially that organization, is if you sit there and just shoot at a target in an indoor range all day long, it's like, yeah, you know how to pull your trigger, and you're not afraid of your gun and some of those things, and safety. But if you ever have to use that weapon in a realistic scenario, if you're not moving, then you're if you're not behind cover or moving, then you're going to lose. And so, a lot of that trains you to really practice those skills and get good at it. So, if you're going to carry that, that really kind of, puts a nail in it for you.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
After going clay shooting a couple weeks ago, I don't need anything but me and my shotgun now. There you go. I am hot. I am on fire. I'm on fire. Other than I got to sell more knives, because all of a sudden I've got a pump Benelli that's a $700, $800 gun. Love it to death, but I use a Browning Satori over under, and now all of a sudden I'm convincing my wife I need a $2,000 shotgun that I won't shoot that much. I just put it in the cabinet, but I'm getting there. I just have to pay for it with knife money is all.
One of my college professors said a hobby's not a real hobby until you don't have any more money. So,
my wife told me several years ago to pick a hobby, and I picked one at that time, and then immediately started picking up others again. So it's just who we are. And you know what? I told my wife, and don't tell me, some of you guys aren't old enough to have done this yet. So I would say maybe Walter has, and maybe Mark, but who has told your wife, well, at least I don't drink or run around? None of y'all? Oh, it's just me. So, she really told me.
No, just you.
Just me. No, I'm a faithful, loving, good husband, and I'm just not real good at staying on the hobby budget. She ups my budget, and then I just figure I can go 200 above that, and I've done that for years. So at least we've got retirement saved on. So there you go. Yeah. There you go. How much closer are we to you doing that? What do you call it? Where you're going to create the steel at your house, Walter? Are we like 20 minutes closer now?
About that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm just keeping up with it. Hey, Mark, is the weather warmer down your way?
It is. I think it's actually warm enough that I could start getting in the water here soon.
Very good. So go ahead and grease yourself up, because I have heard that the jellyfish are floating around, but you need to make a swim up to Maritime Knife Supply. He's got some of the great products and services in Canada and internationally. If you check out Maritime for great deals and service, they got steel, abrasive, handle materials, kilns, grinders, and other tools. There ain't nothing you want that they don't have. And he's one of the nicest guys out there as well. So if you're buying on that side of the border, or you're just bringing it back into the country, go make sure you've got a second supplier there. And I tell you what, I stand behind Maritime, one of the nicest guys out there. So Maritime Knife Supply.com.
Seeing him in about 5 weeks.
I know. I can't wait. I've never met him personally. I've talked to him, but he if I don't see something at Pops, I can go there. And if I don't see something at his, I can go to Pops. And they're both, in my mind, two of the best suppliers out there. And Pops is, because I live in the south part of the United States, I can have things so darn quickly. I order it, and it's practically at my house the next day if it hits Atlanta at the right time. So, but Maritime, like I said, if he's sometimes got special products, and sometimes Pops will, and it's just amazing to have those kind of resources. So, hey, go to maritime.com as well. Because Mark's swimming up there. You don't want to swim up there for nothing. I don't know if you know, he swims up there once a month. In the winter, he uses a little dinghy that he sails up in there, and he brings stuff back down to Alabama and dispenses it for Iron in the Hat at the South Alabama Knife Guild.
Oh, yeah.
With the great Josh Schultz. So
I gotta come up. I promised I'd cut up some scales for the next Iron in the Hat. Wood in the Hat. It's wood in the hat for this next one.
So you're cutting up some scales. What are you making, some stuff, or what are you doing?
Well, there's somebody who said that they wanted a bunch of, I have, a bunch of I have way too much like zebra wood and leopard wood, and then I have some wenge, and just a bunch of different, just basic non-stabilized exotics. But they're like, hey, that's, a bunch of folks asked for it. So I was like, hey, that's easy enough.
I've got some stuff that I'm not going to use, and I can take it to Iron in the Hat as well. But Walter, we've got North Alabama Knife Makers Guild, and Josh Holtz started South Alabama Knife Makers Guild. Mark's secretary in that new group they've got down there. So we've got two groups in Alabama that I'm aware of. But Mark, if I see you at Blade Show, if you bring your truck up or whatever, let me know. I'll have some stuff you can throw in and take down to put in.
Yeah, I'm definitely bringing my truck, because I'm not sure what I'm gonna bring back from Blade Show. So you never know.
Be walking out with an anvil.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. Well, hey, you never know. I have bought. I just ordered off of eBay a couple of forge burners, because Josh is going to help me out. He's got a bunch of forge bodies, and so we're going to weld something up to, get a new forge from just the fire bricks that I have stacked with my homemade burner inside.
So what happened? He's getting Mark has been making knives for 3 or 4 years. Mark, is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably been 4 years, but it hasn't really been 4 years, because before I retired from the Air Force, it was just, there was not a lot of time. It was like the once a month in the garage, and then I retired and worked for the city, and I was almost working just as much, right? And so, so it hasn't been really the last year and a half that I've put a lot of effort into.
So I gave him, I had an extra anvil, and I gave him that, which I think has started his downfall into the hole of knife making, because now he's got to get a forge. He went out and bought himself an even heat, and he's a man to reckon with here as he gets going. Kyle, what you got? Anything new that you're thinking about getting here near future?
I want a fiber laser. That's the next piece of equipment for me.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
I've got.
What are you looking at? Or have you looked at some?
Yeah, so there've been a bunch of different ones. I think I want to get a 60-watt MOPA to be able to do the color anodizing. But every time I get close, then I end up needing to buy more inventory for something, or some expense comes up with the family and gets pushed back, and so luckily I have a,
all you have to do is say,
close.
Let me repeat after me with your wife, and I know that you've got a strong wife like I do. Honey, at least I'm not drinking or running around. Yeah. I need this laser.
Yeah. So, the laser, and then I want to get a new surface grinder attachment, I think, for my 2x72.
So you said this laser allow you to etch, or excuse me, to mark in colors?
Yeah, so you can vary the frequency of the laser on stainless steel, and you can get different colors.
Oh, that's cool.
In your mark.
But like a MOPA is, I mean, it's a lot more money, than just getting a basic fiber laser.
The gap is like shrinking. So it.
Yeah.
The two lasers that I was looking at, it was about $800 more for the MOPA version.
Oh, that's not that bad.
So
I noticed that Jeff Fader, I've always loved his Maker's Mark. He's a very artistic man. But I noticed that he's using the fader with the feather underneath it now. Is that for culinary knives, or have you got any idea on that, Kyle?
I think that's just his new mark. I'm not sure.
Is it just a new mark? It's a pretty mark. I like it. I loved his old one. Maybe he's using them both, but yeah, I assume he's lasering those on. It's what they appear to be. Do you have a laser, Walter? Do you have a laser?
I think I got 5 of them now.
Okay, I was going to say I thought you did.
Yeah. I was going to say which one.
bear in mind, that one of the mixed blessings of doing stuff on YouTube is that people are always trying to sell you. I mean, to send you stuff, and I keep saying yes on all these lasers, and I've actually got a video about yet another laser tomorrow. Nobody seems to be interested in my videos about lasers. And most of the time when I get the laser, I'm like, oh God, now I got to spend all this time figuring out this particular laser. They all have great qualities, and some of them are better than others, but, I always get some benefit out of, trying out a new laser. But I have too many of them.
So are they fiber or the infrared, or?
I've got one fiber. I've got one, the one that I just reviewed, which is called We Create, is the company that makes it. That one you can swap out blue lasers and infrareds. And then I've got a bunch of just, standard kind of cheap diode lasers that, for people who aren't familiar with them, the issue is that depending on the kind of frequency coverage of any particular type of laser that you have, some of them are good on cutting wood. Some of them are good on etching steel. There's nothing out there that's sort of a do-all laser. But most of them actually will do steel pretty well. And so, I mean, I'm a huge fan of them, especially, I mean, just for doing logos,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most people who started doing this back when I did, either you had some touch mark, which of course a lot of people use who forge stuff, or, used electrolysis. And that whole process is messy and time consuming and a giant pain in the neck. And a laser is such an upgrade over that. So, and then there's all kinds of cool things you can do with them in addition to that. So if you have the opportunity, some of them are pretty cheap right now. So
there
you can do that thing.
Hey Kyle, do you also do you serial number your knives?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a huge deal for. I mean, having a laser that you don't have to cut out a new serial number every time you do one.
Well, I didn't cut out a new serial number. I did each stencil individually and tried to line
really?
it up. So,
that's
that's
a lot of work.
Even more frustrating.
I would lose one.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like there's like a 10 serial number gap in my knife line. What happened to those? Oh, it's special. If you find those, they're worth a lot.
Yeah, I had a couple where I miscounted on what number I was on, and I lasered like 6 or 8 knives, and then I went to pull one off the wall that I just need to put handles on, and it was like, that's the same number.
Oh,
it's like,
no.
You talk 0.1.
That's what I've tried to do is like throughout the year, I try to like, if I have a custom order, I'll make 2, and then I'll put one, I'll grind the blade and get it all finished so it's just ready for a handle, and then I'll stick it on the peg for the wall. So that helps me with blade show to be able to have a handful of knives they just get to put handles on.
I always say a knife is 1,000 mistakes corrected into something beautiful. And it takes me back to when I made one of my early knives and I was etching my logo on there. Somehow or another, the etchant got underneath and created this little dot on my knife I'd worked on for a long time for this guy that was going to Norway. And I didn't know how I was going to fix it. And then it came to me, my logo is a Sasquatch walking through the forest. And I was like, well, you could be walking through there at night. So I cut out this perfect little circle and put over there. And I called it the Shegman Sonunaqua Full Moon Edition. Because it now had a moon over the trees. And I said, hey, how do you like this one? This is the full moon edition. He goes, I love it. No one else has one, right? I'm like, no. So I have one.
Like, not if I don't mess up again.
Yes, I have one full moon edition knife over in Oslo, Norway right now. Speaking of mistakes corrected, now, like, when you made Japanese style blades, or even with some of the real fancy work that you do, because I've seen some of the parts that you have for sale, have you gotten so precise in what you do, or do you find that you constantly evolve a piece based on, we're human, we're not CNC machines, and it ends up becoming mostly what you started with, but there's some variances and just based on a little slip here or a little file there or whatever.
I mean, the more you do something, the better you get at it and the fewer screw ups that you make. But I mean, one of the, downfalls or things that comes with trying new stuff all the time, which I do, I'm always trying novel stuff. Some of that is really driven by YouTube just because I have to come up with, I can't just do the same knife over and over. But so, some of it is just like, hey, I saw this thing on, Instagram that this guy did this thing. I ought to try that or so. Well, actually, I'll give you a good example is, what's his face that was at Batson, who was doing the integral bolsters.
Yeah.
I've done a few integrals, but he's a guy that's his bread and butter. And so he does them a hell of a lot better than I do. And so, I was like, oh, let me try some of these things. And so, sometimes I'm led by just seeing somebody else doing something. Anyway, bottom line is, anytime you're doing something new, you're going to screw up. So I still screw up a whole lot. And so, coming up with shady little ways to camouflage the way that you mess something up is part of my job as far as I'm concerned. And I say shady, but, honestly, I think every knife maker has been there where you make some kind of mistake and then you're like, oh God, I got to find a way to fix this. but you want to do it ethically. You actually don't want to be hiding it with, a piece of chewing gum or something. You really want to come up with a solution that delivers a really good knife to somebody. And sometimes that's a challenge, and sometimes it just can't be done. And that's very frustrating.
Do you think Full Moon Edition was appropriate?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, excellent. Good.
100%. Yeah.
It's WS approved. I'm sorry, Kyle. Go right ahead.
Sometimes people have no idea what you were even trying to go for to begin with. So when they see it for the first time, there was one of the good guys that taught me a whole bunch of stuff. It was the first job working at the t-shirt company. He bought a chef's knife, and I gave it to him, and he goes, "Kyle, I can't find a single flaw in this thing." I'm like, "I'm glad you can't see anything." And he goes, "Well, what
don't
is,
look over there.
What I don't see anything." I'm like, he's like, "Can you show me?" I'm like, "Nope." Like, you're on your own.
Story of my life, but I probably don't hide them as well as you do. Kyle,
while we're talking about it, I'll give you a great example. Even my first hidden tang, I made, right? So I filed this out, and I was like, man, this is, I spent so much time, and for some reason, like I knew it was going to be right, but then I put it on, and there was a gap, right? And so the guard was too wide. And so I saw this video once of, instead of making a smooth face on there, if you made a whole bunch of punch divots, you could kind of punch divot, close the gap, but then continue those punch divots on the whole front. And then it gave this textured appearance. I'm like, that's a great idea. So I did that, and and it worked out great. And then so I've showed a whole bunch of folks, and they're like, man, your guard fit up is great. I'm like, yeah, no, it's not. It was awful, and this is hiding it. But hey, I'm glad you think so. But yeah, and so now I know the next step in that is that if you take a less sharp punch and hit the face a little bit, you can close that up and then grind it off, and then it'll stay closed, and then you can and then it still looks fresh, which I did on my most current hidden tang.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's a smooth way to do it there, Mark. But I tell you what, the last episode was about being abrasive, and you need to go to phoenixabrasives.com. And I will tell you that Greg and Sean and the whole team over there have some great prices. I even saw that they gave the great Kyle Daly a KP12 discount. I think, was it over Easter or something like that, Kyle?
Oh, that wasn't a knife perspective. That was just their Easter
discount.
Oh, it was just their Easter egg that they had sent. Well, that's very nice. I saw you had sent that out. But anyway, they got a complete inventory of belts, discs, rolls, wheels, and anything else you need to get the job done right. If you enter Templars 10, but also Walter, Kyle, of course, is the owner and the host of Knife Perspective. We also let people know you can put KP10, which is easier to type, guys, but please put Templars 10 if you're listening to us, so they'll know that you came from us. But both will work great. Two great podcasts offering you great products from phoenixabrasives.com. There you go. Now let's move back into smooth again. This is going smooth, man. Time is just flying by. So, Walter, are you doing much sword making anymore?
No. I've got, this series of smelts that I've been doing. I'm trying to accumulate enough, decent material to make something. I've got a katana promised to somebody, and that's, I believe, the only thing on my I gotta make it list of Japanese stuff. My theory is I want to make a long blade each year, and sometimes I pull that off, and sometimes I don't. But I don't know. I mean, I've always worked a fair amount, but in the last 3 years, I've I think maybe it's because I've started doing these knife making tools. That's kind of taken off, and so between all these different things that I'm doing, I've really been kind of going pretty much 7 days a week, and I just haven't had as much time to do Japanese stuff as I would like.
What is the exact name of the tool that you brought to Blade Show for like doing antlers and squaring things up? That's the
that is the doodad that you take, that you do the thing that you do the other thing with. That's what we call it over at Pops. No, in all seriousness,
it's a technical term.
We don't have really a name for it. It's kind of embarrassing, but it's basically a stag handle drilling jig. But the cool thing about that tool is that it really is actually useful for a lot of other stuff. Basically it's two little I don't know, brackets or whatever you'd call it. They're kind of vice jaw type things that are attached with a couple little rails. And, there are other designs of similar kind of things. This is not like something that I came up with, really. I sort of refined some ideas that the guys at Pops came to me with. But it's a nice little tool for, the job one for it is drilling stag handle and bone and anything else that's irregular.
It's officially called the Pops drilling jig. It was that easy. I couldn't come up with.
Now I know.
But it's called Pops drilling jig, made by Walter Sorrells, and I've actually got one in the mail on the way to me. So I saw that at Batson's, and I only brought so much cash with me, and I was trying to spread it thin. So I did buy the surface grinder handle thingy. Are you making that for them also?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I think I got 5 things that I'm making for them now.
Gotcha.
We're doing a little grinding jig. It's really just for grinding plunge lines. It looks like a drilling guide. It looks like a filing guide, but it's made with mild steel, so you can grind along the face of it, and you're not messing anything up.
Right.
I'm doing a knife maker's vise, and a couple other things. So,
well, I noticed that the little. I'm sorry, I've lost the little surface grinder attachment, little handle with the micarta, and it's got the pin that goes through it, and it's got the magnets in it.
Right.
Yeah, that thingy. I love that. I used it for the first time, and I decided not to buy a surface grinder at this time because it really held the knife beautifully, and you weren't fighting with magnets trying to clamp onto your platen or anything. It was just a very nice tool, and I don't know if I need that precision at this point in time. If I do, I've got enough friends with machine shops around here. If I need to, I'm going to get a platen ground down for me that's an older platen and get it resurfaced. But if I need to do stuff like that, I got buddies that can do that. But that's just the perfect little tool. And I went ahead and bought this drill guide I already forgot the name of it. the jig, what was it called?
The Pops drilling jig.
Drilling jig. Doohickey works better because I can remember that by Walter Sorrells. The doohickey by Walter. But so when that gets here, I can't wait to use it because I've actually got a lot of people that request antler and stuff, and that stuff's it takes so much time to do it because the way I do it to get it to line up is I tape it, do one side, go through, I will glue that up, and then I'll go do the other side, tape it, glue it up, and run it through. And so it's twice the amount of time in gluing it up to get them to line up right for me. So I'm looking forward to using this to speed things up a little bit. That's cool. So you find most of your time is making tools these days and videos. Is that? I saw you're smelting some earth to make steel. I've been watching some of your videos. So, but are you a tool maker, video maker, or just all of the above?
It's all of the above. I shouldn't say this, but every time I do a YouTube video, which is every single week, I go, do I really want to do this anymore? Because there's not that much money in it. It's really kind of a loss leader for the rest of my business, but I do feel like it's actually important for that. And I enjoyed it. I'm not writing anymore. And, I really, I think am built to write stuff. So every week I got to write a script and kind of construct this little narrative and all that. And I kind of enjoy doing that, but it's so time consuming. And I just feel like that's 2 days out of my week, and sometimes 3 and sometimes 4, that I can't be, actually making stuff. And
so you're cameraman as well, right?
Yeah, I do the whole thing. I mean, I'm the audio guy. I'm the dude who schleps all the crap around the shop. I'm the lighting guy. I'm, key grip and best boy and all that stuff. And it's if you make a knife, and all you're doing is making a knife, it takes X amount of time. If you make a knife and do a video about it, it takes about 3x, and that's frustrating sometimes. Or more, yeah.
I think that your storyboard writing, whether it's formal or you're just going with what you feel, but your storyboards and your narration, but you've got a perfect voice for the video, and whether it be video or audio, that really pulls people in because it's welcoming and it says, "Hey, I want to listen to this." So I think that's pretty cool because it's very welcoming to new makers that want to get into it.
Well, and anybody who enjoys a flat, monotonous delivery will enjoy that.
It's funny that you talked about his voice. When we were up at Batson's, I was sitting with Josh Holtz, and he saw you, or maybe Chip was talking to you or something, and he's like, "Hey, who's that?" And then you were talking, and he's like, "Oh, I know who it is." And so he's like, so he recognized actually your voice before he recognized your face. Which I think is good for, like Chip tells me, it's like I have a face for radio. But
I say you've got a body for swimming the maritime.
That's true. No, but I think that's it's great because you're not regardless if somebody's monotonous or whatever it is, you consider yourself it's unique, and I think that's what somebody wants is they want that unique, sound, that unique look, something that's different than everybody else. So it's not just the same. So,
yeah.
I never tried to be something, I just sort of, there's Walter standing up there and, whatever you get Walter.
And I think folks gravitate to that because it's very realistic and it's not, like you're not putting on a show and trying to be something you're not. So some of those are fun. Some of those videos are fun to watch. That the huge cinematic, some folks put in a lot of effort of putting in all these different angles and sounds and B-roll footage and just tons of stuff. And yeah, that's very entertaining. But for somebody who wants to get on and get brass tacks information, I think you really portray a very genuine video and personality. So it's I think that's what folks gravitate to.
Well, when I got started, it was in that era. I mean, I started 15 years ago on YouTube, and in that era, a lot of the videos were this sort of, "Hey man, I know you can't hear what I'm saying and you can't see, and it's all shaky cam and there's a fan going on in the background, And I just sort of said, well, I actually would like to know what this dude's doing. So maybe if the camera doesn't shake and you can hear the audio and you can see the stuff, it would be better. And so that's really been my MO from the beginning. Yeah. And, I think I have just a sort of, didactic sort of know-it-all kind of personality, and so that that kind of helps me have the confidence, or I just have the natural personality that I'm gonna just hey, if I know something, I'll try and explain it to you, and I kind of enjoy doing that.
What's interesting is that your opening and the white background, you talking, pulls people into it. The closing lets people go with a sense of accomplishment on what they've watched, but also the narration is relevant to what you're doing. You're just not talking, making noise over what people are looking at. It's relevant to what they're doing. Whether you mean to do that, it may come with that dichotomy you talked about, is that when you speak, people listen because it comes with some authority and I know what I'm doing. So, and it's like Kyle or Josh, we were saying, or Kyle was saying about the knives. You may see every mistake in every one of your videos, but we just don't see them. We just don't see them.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
So what do you got planned?
I've heard a lot of YouTubers say that for every minute of produced YouTube video, it's usually 2 to 3 hours to film it, edit it, and all.
That's about right. Yeah, that's about right.
So,
what do you have planned? No, I keep cutting you off. I get hate mail every time I cut people off, Walter. I think I've exceeded my limit. I'm going to get another hate email this week. So usually I try to shut up. So I guess since I'm already chatting, what do you got planned for Blade Show, Walter?
Every year I think about 4 months in advance. Oh God, why did you not get a table this year? Well, you don't have any inventory. Everything you make, it pretty much gets sold and goes out the door. And so, you didn't really need one anyway. And I have this whole, self-hating internal monologue, and then I show up and I just go around and talk to people, and I actually really enjoy that. So I'm doing the same thing. I'll be probably stopping by the Pops booth. I'm sure I'll be over with the Ameribraid guys a little bit, and otherwise, I just walk around and look and see what people are doing, and I learn so much stuff there, and that way I don't have the pressure of like, oh, I gotta sell 112 knives or the whole thing's a big disaster. So I to me it's a big win if I just talk to a bunch of people.
Will you be competing in the Bala Song again this year?
Oh, always.
Always. Good. Good.
I'm over with the kids in the corner,
and they walk up to somebody with a grinder and go, "Can you sharpen this for me?" And the guy's like, "No, I'm not sharpening that for you." So Kyle, as we're getting 4 weeks in, we'll have another show before this, but what do you got planned for Blade this year?
Lots of knife making products. Got a bunch of that stuff, and hopefully I'll have 20 to 30 blades. We'll see how many I get done.
I'm gonna have to pick up a couple. I'm gonna have to pick up a couple sanding sticks, so I'm sure you'll be bringing those.
Yeah, I've got Joe Snarsky. He's CNC routering some red and more black canvas micarta ones. I used to do them all by hand, and then Joe. He's been great with doing some of Dan's handles and stuff, and he agreed to do my sanding sticks, and I was like, "You're only going to charge how much?" Spend a ton of time doing them, so it's great to just I get my material, Atlas material, right next to me. They sponsor our podcast and stuff, so I get a pretty good discount on the handle material, and then run them through the table saw and send them down there. So, but yeah,
will you have any of the replacement? Will you have any of the replacement rubber pads?
Yeah, I got lots of rubber pads.
So you bring those for sale also?
Yeah, those
good
are
deal.
pretty cheap.
Good deal.
And then, I'm working on making I want to have a banner over top of my table this year. So, worked on the design for that, and now I'm going to try to get that all something that can collapse down pretty easily. We'll see what comes up with that.
I'm sure you'll be able to make it, being an engineer and a visionary like you are. But yeah, some of those trade show type banner things are nice. I'm sure you'll come up with something quite fancy.
Yeah. So,
what you
Josh, speaking of, you know that 80-20 extruded aluminum tubing that looks like an X?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I think that would be really cool. And do you know they don't make an attachment that like clamps to like a workbench? Doesn't exist.
Really?
Yeah, they got every other angle attachment, and you can holders for water bottles you can screw onto the side of them, but nothing with like like a screw clamp that you can clamp to like another piece.
Oh man.
Are you going to come up with the screw?
Well, there you go, dude. There's your next
the next buddy. The next buddy.
Your banner buddy.
Banner buddy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to probably end up using some like black iron pipe.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Josh, what do you have planned besides sanding as you're driving down Interstate 20?
Jeez, I have a lot planned, whether or not I get to all of it. Luckily, I do have a little bit of stock right now. There's only a few things that I need to do to the ones that I have ready to go. Just a couple of little things that I want to touch up. And then I've got one like mini chef's knife ready, which is more like a petty style.
Mm-hmm.
That's Damascus. It's ready to etch and it needs a handle. And then I've got 3 like brute to forge knives that are like forged down to where I just want to like sharpen them, and the profile and everything is ready to go. I'm only really happy with one of them, so I might take one of those, and then I've got a quilling dagger that's forged out, and I've got the bronze like fittings and stuff like rough ground.
Yeah,
and I've got the handle made for it. I want to finish that one, and then if I have time, I really want to use that piece of mammoth on another quilling dagger, but if it's $150 piece of handle material, I don't want to put it on like a monosteel blade. And so I've got a billet of C's welded up, and what I turn that into, I'm not entirely sure. And like I said last time, monkey brain is like, I want to do feather Damascus because it's like my favorite pattern. But then like doing feather Damascus on a dagger, you're kind of asking for trouble. So like, well, what if I just go ahead and I make the feather like serpentine instead of a straight feather? Because then it's like, well, I messed it up on purpose, you know. So I've got a lot of stuff. I've got some sand my billets, stainless sand my billets done.
Make it a Chris dagger.
I've got a few things. yeah. Make it line up with the etch of the. Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. But that would be amazing, though. I also have an Oroshigane chef's knife that I want to get finished. But that one, you know, it's all water quench stuff, and you don't want to rush that. You know, I've got Emiliano Carrillo. I keep referencing him. He's the guy that taught me how to do all this, and I got to watch him water quench a chef's knife that he made out of Oroshigane, and he's got such a very different way of doing it that I haven't seen before. Even some people who do you know, this kind of traditional material, they all have different like heat treating ways of doing it. And it was so neat to watch that he quenches into still cool water. And he doesn't, it's like slightly cooler than room temp. And he'll heat it up in the forge, get it all homogeneously heated, and go straight into the water. Wow. And it doesn't move. But you can see it. in the water, you can see it kind of like dive down and then come back up. And it was really neat to actually like watch it. But we always like when we quench into oil, you've got that vapor jacket that you try to break by shaking it around. He purposefully doesn't move the blade in the water, and the vapor jacket helps actually slow the cooling of the water. And so instead of breaking that vapor jacket and it cooling too fast, he actually utilizes that vapor jacket to help cool it down. And as a result, I'm going to butcher the Japanese terminology for this. Is it like the kashi, where you've got the clouds going through the blade? It's not necessarily a hamon, but it's due to the differentially cooled material. And so where it's thinner, you'll see it like, you'll have it, the blade edge, one shade, and it'll wrap up over the top of the spine. And then the thickness of the blade will be that like softer, slower cooled material, because the blade edge will cool off quicker. It'll get exposed to the water sooner. And then the thicker parts of the blade will keep that vapor jacket just a little bit longer. And so you'll end up with this essentially differentially heat treated blade after the quench. And that's what I want to do with this. And I'm a little, that one I want to, it's my first one that I've done like that. So I'm very nervous about it not working out, because that was part of that Battleship steel. And I want it to work out.
Texas or Alabama? Battleship.
Texas.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. Well, I don't see you mess up too often. So, and if you're gonna be making some Damascus, let me know if you don't mind. I'd love to come down and watch you make it. Take a little lesson from you. So you owe me a lesson. I think you were about 2 years ago. I asked you to help me, and you never got around to doing it. So it's about time to to deliver, buddy. So I'm gonna walk around Blade Show again this year. I told you I've got 4 knives to take this year, but I am looking forward to that. And I told some guys, hey, I'll come to your table, and kind of chatted up with people that are walking by, but I actually got asked by 2 people if I could stop by their tables and talk people in. And I was kind of excited about that. It said something nice that I love human relations. I love being nice to people. I love just talking, and I can talk to a stranger anywhere and strike up a conversation. So I'm going to do a little bit of that this year. I've gotten over my Trollsky fanboy. So when I see him, hopefully he won't run from me this year. And Walter, I love Trollsky's videos. Make a knife. I'm a big backpacker from the past. Now I've got a camp that you set up, and Mark knows about my tent. And I set up, and then I go out and hike in the forest and come back to the tent and eat good eat now. But I love his videos where he'd make a knife and he'd go out and he'd cut a sausage and drink some coffee and a little liquor. And it was just cool running around the forest with his dog. So when I had the opportunity to meet him, I just think he's one of those guys that has a sincere talent for telling a story with his knives without actually speaking. And I always look forward to seeing him. But I'll be kind of doing some of that this year, just walking around and seeing and just enjoying my friends, because there's so many friends that I have within this group. But I have developed some of the most genuine friendships with people that I may see once a year or talk to throughout the year or see regularly. And they're some of the best friendships of my life. My best friend was my anvil, and I'm slowly getting back into a few people again. So it is kind of nice. And Mark, what do you have planned for Blade? You're coming up. Is your wife coming with you this year? Or are you going to be?
No, my wife's not. I found another roommate, and so I'm gonna try that. And Shannon's gonna stay home. The dog's not gonna come this time, so we don't have to find a restaurant to bring the dog in. No, I'm gonna be staying with Kyle this time. And so
you're staying at the big hotel with Kyle?
I am.
Kyle.
Yeah.
Are you making him sleep?
He's going to help wheel the cooler around.
That's right.
Oh, so he's got to work for it. I'm like, how do you get to stay with Kyle? I'm staying with Fry, so I feel equally. But you get to sit there and drink the blueberry moonshine, and then just walk upstairs. You don't have to try to navigate back across the parking lot.
There you go.
We had some blueberry moonshine a couple years ago, Walter, that still leaves a dear thought in our hearts about how delicious it was. Things that pop up down in the pit. You never know.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, Kyle, what were you going to say?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Mark graciously offered to help watch my table some too while I'm doing my Blade Show file work class. To talk about some handle material or handle shaping stuff also. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's going to be no new material in the class, Mark, so you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, I've had it 2 years in a row, so I use it. Definitely use all the stuff that you brought up. I pull out your book, pretty often and kind of do freshen up and just make it. It's nice having all the dimensions and because I don't do a batch that frequently that it's just constant that it's fresh in my memory. So every time I get the files out, I'm like, let me break it open, just making sure I get everything right. Like, so there's one knife that I have that I'll probably just keep that I ended the firework a little bit too close to the lanyard hole. And so now, I can't really fill it because it's like right next to the lanyard hole. So I have to do something with that. So
if you would like, I could weld it for you. I could weld it for you.
Yes, I saw your welding.
I guarantee I could put down plenty of steel. I'm learning to weld, and
you can tell he works for the chicken farm.
Yeah. You just lay down a lot of steel.
Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. But my second welding attempt was much better. So you got a place to sleep on there? You need to borrow a cot or anything? You good to go?
No, I'm good. I'm good to go. And if I do need a cot, we were Tyler's in scouting, and so I've done a lot of. I have more than enough backpacking and camping stuff. But you don't need to start your stove in his hotel room. But I was just thinking if you need a cot or something. But that's cool. No, I'm good.
Last year I had to leave at noon on Saturday because I had to leave. Atlanta, drive straight through to Nashville and go get my press from Clark Taplin. So this year I won't have to do that. I'll be there through Sunday, and then I have to drive down to Moultrie, Georgia for the week after that. So it works out beautifully. But I do want to bring up Clark Taplin. I hope he's there this year. You can find him with Clark Iron Forge. And I just went out and checked. His price on a 25-ton press was still $4,000, $700 shipping. You pick it up, you save the $700. But he's gone from a few forges to making some of those beautiful presses. I believe he's got a 17, a 25, and a 40, and they're also wonderfully priced, and they make a real difference. And the products that you're trying to make, and certainly if you're hammering, once you go to a press, I tell you what, you won't want to go back. You won't want to go back. So I wish he made it. I need to get him into making tire hammers because he does such a nice job with that. Or maybe I'll end up making my own someday. Who knows? So, well, I guess we're getting close to the end of this. This has gone by so quickly. Walter, what's Friday look like for you?
So usually I finish up my video, piddle around a little bit, and then I go play drums over at a buddy of mine's house, and have a few beers and drive home.
That sounds perfect. So if I come over there, probably won't be the time. I've got a J45 and a American Telecaster that I like to play. And Mark plays the guitar, the mandolin, the banjo. He really plays the guitar, but all of the other instruments he played are just kind of piped in on here. And we give him credit for them when we go to breaks and stuff. But he's very talented at playing the keyboard as far as the noise keyboard over to my right. Guys, I hope, excuse me, I hope you have a blessed upcoming weekend. You get a lot of stuff done. Not just us, all the listeners out there, but Listen, if you have questions, comments, product reviews, show and guest ideas, subscribe and email us at theknivestemplars@yahoo.com. You can also DM us on Facebook at the Knives Templars podcast group. We've gotten quite a few visitors lately and people that are joining up. So join the masses. And always, again, knivestemplars.com to stay up to date. This episode's brought to you by Two Bastards, TR Maker, Clark Iron Forge, The Rivers Experience, Casting Crafts, and Marabraid, Pops Knife Supplies, Maritime Knife Supply, and Phoenix Abrasives with their Templars 10 at checkout for 10% off of your order. You can hear us at iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube Music, Anchor, Amazon YouTube Video, and CastBox. Guys, this is the part where we say goodnight. And what else do we say?
Oinky, oinky, oinky.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Brought to you by PORKHouse Productions. Oinky, oinky, oinky.
You got it figured out this time, Chip.
I did. Yeah. I was about to go into a big coughing fit there.
Yeah. Hey, but before we get off the air, I just to make sure that the listeners here, hey Walter, where does if anybody doesn't know where to find your stuff, where do they look you up and Walter Sorrells on YouTube, right? But what's your websites that they can find your knives?
So I've got two of them. TacticsArmory.com is my sort of production, EDC type stuff, outdoor knives and stuff like that. And then Walter Sorrells Blades is my Japanese stuff, and some of the tools I make, scabbard chisels and some stuff like that. And so that's all available on that channel.
All right.
Yeah, I was out there checking it out. Go ahead.
If you want to find out a little bit more about Walter, he was gracious enough to be on our show way towards the beginning, show 18 of the.
I know, man. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah. So
I was like, Kyle can grow a beard now. It's been that long. How long ago was show 18? About
that would have been like 2019, something like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Yeah. Podcasts were a great thing during COVID and this, that, and the other. So, and COVID spawned a ton of knife makers. People had to find something to do with their off time, and I think Forged and Fire helped with that and this, that, and the other. But I'm actually seeing really good deals on equipment people are selling these days, and I don't know if just some people are getting out of it or what. But and not a ton. I mean, don't get me wrong, this community's strong, but I am seeing if you do a Facebook marketplace or just look out on the internet, sometimes you'll find some really good deals on things.
Yeah, I got into podcasting because I was trying to do some YouTube videos, and I did like 3 or 4, and I put like so much effort into them, and they your first ones never get a whole lot of traffic. And then that's when Dan approached me about doing the podcast, and it was like, I don't have to sync up the video. I can edit the audio and not have to worry about any of my mouth lining up. So
yeah. And I tell you what, the podcast, it's getting so easy to do the post edits these days. I mean, even with we use Riverside, and some with AI and all the stuff that's out there, generating transcripts, lining up tracks, and this, that, and the other. I mean, it used to take me 4 hours to do post edits and publish it, and now it's 15, 20 minutes. So that's how good it's gotten. Not too bad.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, guys, with that being said, it is a Thursday night. We'll get this out on Friday, and we will all be busy this weekend. Walter, we do want to say to you, I hope we can consider you a friend moving forward. You're a friend of the community, but you are such a nice person and such a good guy. We don't run across people like that too often, and it's easy to gravitate to them. And if you think, I used to teach Dale Carnegie courses, and one thing I always taught people is that you should always pay sincere appreciation when you do appreciate something. And if you're not sincere and you're just feeding a line, people will see through it. So hopefully you saw that it's quite sincere. We are very blessed to have you on tonight. Thank you so much for that.
Hey, it's been great to be here. And, everybody hopefully I can get a chance to say hi to everybody at Blade Show. So track me down if you get a chance, and I'll try and find you guys too.
We will definitely do that.
Sounds good.
All right. Y'all have a good night.
On a hill so far away, he bore the weight, nails and thorns, yet no hate. He hung in silence, pain so wide. For every sin he bled and died. Through darkest skies his light still shone. He faced the cross to bring us home. It should have been me, but he took my place. A gift of mercy, endless grace. Oh, thank you, Lord, for that rugged tree, where chains were broken and souls set free. You gave it all, no holding back, to guide us home when we lose track. I lift my hands, my heart, my voice in saving grace. I now rejoice. Now every scar tells of his name, a story etched in love, not shame. Forgiven hearts now rise and sing. He conquered death, he is the King. With grateful tears I walk this road, my burden's lighter with each load. Faith like fire, it won't grow cold. The greatest truth my soul will hold. Oh, thank you, Lord, for that rugged tree, where chains were broken and souls set free. You gave it all, no holding back, to guide us home when we lose track. I lift my hands, my heart, my voice in saving grace. I now rejoice. Oh, thank you, Lord, for that rugged tree, where chains were broken and souls set free. Your sacrifice, my soul's delight. I'll praise your name both day and night. I lift my hands, my heart, my voice in saving grace. I now rejoice. Oh, he died for me, so I could